Hi, everybody. Yes, so Voice of San Diego. We are in San Diego. Our mission is to serve the people of the San Diego region, which is about 3 million people. We've been really specific on the city of San Diego for the past 10 years, so we're not a startup anymore. We've had a membership program kind of since the very beginning. I came on board 4 years ago, and at that point, anybody who had ever given us $5 was considered a member. So there wasn't really any structure or meaning to that program, and so for the past 4 years, we've been really focusing on creating an experience that's very meaningful, but it's also an experience and a revenue stream that can help build long-term sustainability for us. So is a membership program right for you? Some questions that we asked ourselves, you might want to ask yourself if you're thinking about doing this. Do you need the money? Obviously, yes, we all need the money. But I really challenge you to think about a membership program and that revenue stream, if managed properly, can really be the breeding ground for a lot more funding than just that $35 to $500 member. I know from experience that you get major donors out of it, you get corporate sponsors out of it, you get people who rise with expertise in tech and finance. So if you do a good job of managing that relationship, it can go far beyond what you might think of in terms of membership revenue. Do you have a loyal audience who appreciates your work and recognizes that you're producing it? I put that in there because a lot of us produce content and then distribute it through different channels. And so you might not have that direct relationship between your reader and the editorial side. And so that makes it a lot harder to really build that intimacy. So it's important that whoever's reading your content really knows you're producing it and what you're all about. This is a big one. Do you have or are you willing to invest in a customer relationship management system to store your user information? We use Salesforce. We've spent the past 4 years customizing Salesforce to make it right for journalism, and you can reap the benefits of that. We're happy to share everything that we've done. That's part of the project that we've done with MinnPost that was funded by the Knight Foundation. But Salesforce is the engine that fuels everything we do. This is where we're capturing all the information about people who read us and support us. We know what events they've come to. We know what kind of stories they like. We know where they live. So we can talk to them in a much more customized and targeted way because of Salesforce. So it's a huge, huge part of building a successful membership program. Can you add features to your site designed to add prospects to your pipeline? Obviously, in any kind of business, you always have to be adding new people to the pipeline that you can market to. So on our site, we get people to sign up for our newsletter. We do a daily newsletter called the Morning Report. We're constantly pushing people to sign up for the Morning Report. It's a big banner on our website. It's at the bottom of all of our articles. We're constantly pushing it. We also have a feature that allows people to follow storylines that they're passionate about. So they have to give us their email address and join our pipeline for that. They might be interested in the Chargers Stadium debacle. They might be interested in what's happening with the convention center expansion. If they follow that narrative, we'll make sure that they don't miss any story that's added to that storyline. They'll get an email anytime a new post is added. So that's one of those new features that we've added this year in our project with Knight to really compel people to join the pipeline. At this point, they're not members. We'll get to that later. But we're just constantly trying to get people in that pipeline so that we can have a more meaningful conversation with them down the road. Do you have a development person who can commit to managing a membership program? I know for some small shops the answer is no, but you really need it. It's a business investment that you need to make if you really want this to work. So build a program based on data, not assumptions. We've talked a lot about data today. It's so important. You have to really figure out who your audience is and what drives them. So the first thing that we did is we conducted surveys and focus groups. If you can't do a focus group and you just want to do the survey, you just use SurveyMonkey and you send it out. We had about 30 questions. We sent it to everybody in our pipeline. We got about a 17% response rate, which was pretty solid. We asked them all about their news consumption habits, what topics, what devices they're using, so we could figure out how much we needed to be targeting towards mobile. Do they understand the nonprofit news model? What do they value most about our organization? This was an interesting one. We asked them to give 3 words that describes their vision of Voice of San Diego. And we took those words and we used them as we were building our marketing and our brand. So irreverent, honest, hard-hitting, gritty, those were the kind of things that they saw in us. And so that's how we built our brand around what our audience saw in us. What would motivate them to support us? One of the questions was, you've never given to Voice of San Diego, what would it take to get you to support us? It was multiple choice. We've done this survey 3 more times since then. The #1 response is, keep asking, I'll get around to it, I keep meaning to. And some of the other options were, never ask me again, I will never fund you, or I just can't afford it. Always the #1, I keep meaning to, keep asking, I'll get around to it. So we keep asking. And then demographics, this is an obvious when you're doing surveys. This is great for you. You need to be able to draw a picture of who your audience member is. Is it a businessman? Is it a white man in their 50s? What do they do for fun? Where do they go on the weekends? You need to really have a very clear picture of who your readers are before you can build a membership program that appeals to them. So taking the time to go through these steps and actually doing them every couple of years is so important. And obviously just having that basic demographic information is really valuable to advertisers too. Okay, so here's what we found out. Some major aha moments. People didn't understand the nonprofit news model at all. It was relatively new when, as in terms of Voice being one of the first nonprofit, strictly digital news organizations. They turned on their computer, the news was there. They didn't really think about how it got there or who was producing it, and we had never really told them. So they didn't understand their role and how they could help. They didn't know the difference between being a member and a subscriber. They opened their inbox every day. The morning report was there. They had their coffee with us. We're literally talking to them every single day. They felt like they had a very intimate relationship with us, so they didn't realize they weren't a member until we told them that being a member means that you help support us financially. We had done a great job of telling other people's story, but we never took the time to even write or tell our own story. This was probably the biggest aha moment that we still talk about to this day, is how we had never written our story, and we had a really good story to write, and we had a whole staff of writers who were well equipped to write it. So we took the time, we put together a little internal group we called the Vision Squad, and we just wrote our story. Who are we? And now all the employees can recite that. It's like our little elevator pitch. But who we are is not a nonprofit news organization that does investigative reporting. What we do is we give people the tools to engage in important conversations about their communities so that they can be more involved and help make important decisions that impact their quality of life. I don't think I'm reciting it perfectly, but it's not about us, it's about them. So then we took what we learned. We took those words, we took all the advice that they had given us, and we created a brand around it. And we called it the I am the Voice of San Diego. And so as you'll see on our website, we're always using pictures of real members, and we're using taglines of things that they say they care about in the community. And those are the things that guide us, and those are the things that we write about. So again, it's not about us. We're not the Voice of San Diego. They are. So the first step then in okay, we need to build a membership program, and we should probably have some benefits, but we can't afford, nor do we want to get into the tchotchke business. So what do we have? What are our commodities that we can market? Well, we have web content. We have our journalism. We do these great newsletters. We do news alerts when breaking news happens. We had a magazine. We have a magazine that we publish twice a year. That's a compilation of our top stories for the previous 6 months, which really just is a member benefit and a great marketing piece. And we do events. So those were everything that we had at our disposal. So we knew that's what we had to work with currently. And Access and Experience was this new kind of idea that we hadn't really played around with of, we do all these cool things, and we're a pioneer in this industry, so why don't we tell people about it and let them spend some time with us? So we took those things and then we decided which one of them we were willing to turn into exclusive benefits. There were many debates that happened internally about what should be premium products and what shouldn't. Now, I had asked a question in the initial survey that said, if the only way to get Voice of San Diego's morning report was to pay for it, would you? And 65% of the people said yes. So I was like, awesome. There's 65% of our people who are just going to join if we make that a members only benefit. My board was not ready for that. They said, our mission is to get our content out to as many people as possible, not to wall it off. I said, our content is out there for as many people as possible, but we're compiling into this really cool premium product that we could make a member benefit. I tell you this because if you're thinking about doing that, you got to make it a benefit from the day one. You can't go back and say, now I'm taking this away from you unless you become a member. So just some food for thought. The morning report goes to everyone. But the new member report is a member benefit. It's a monthly email blast that our CEO writes, and it is a total behind the scenes of what it's like to run a news organization. All the stuff that doesn't necessarily make it in the articles, all the Freedom of Information Act struggles we might have, some of the backroom deals that we might be privy to. What does it mean when someone gives you something on background as opposed to on the record? Really cool stuff that people want to know about journalism that they don't really have the opportunity to learn about. So we have a 50% open rate for the member report, and it's probably one of our most prized benefits. We do an inside scoop when we know we have a big investigation coming up. Our managing editor or our editor-in-chief will do a quick snippet the day before we publish it and just send it to members saying, hey, make sure you read the morning report tomorrow. We're going to blow the roof off something. I think you're going to like it. We do a lot of events. We do more than 30 events per year, ranging from small member coffees with 30 people to large 450 to 1,000 person events. It's a big part of who we are. One Voice at a Time conversation series. We have a Brews and News panel discussion series. And our magazine, we turned into a member benefit. And then for our high-level donors, we have what's called a VOSD experience, where we kind of do little bus rides to Tijuana to show like the emerging culture in Tijuana. It's a more kind of a high-end exclusive event series. So then for you guys, put them together. I don't want to take too much time determining how you put your benefits in different price points, but you do. You figure out where you need to be to get to your revenue goal. This is how we did it. We have 4 levels: 35 to 100, 101 to 5, 501 to 1,000, and 1,000 to 5. Anything above 5,000 is in a different revenue stream called major donors that I manage personally. So we have 4 revenue streams: members, major donors, foundations, and community partners. Our community partners are our sponsors and our content underwriters. My goal is that they're 25% across the board so that we have a very diverse and well-balanced revenue streams, and we're not unduly, dependent on one major foundation or one major donor. So right now, members represent 18%, sponsors represent 18%, foundations, I believe, this year at 38%, and major donors at 26%, if I'm doing the math correctly.
Which one of those categories brings in?
This is membership.
Which one of those 4 brings in the most revenue?
Our sweet spot is Inside Voice, the 101 to 5. Incidentally, we're doing a very big push on encouraging recurring donors. So the $10 a month, the $5 a month, because they automatically renew, right? So you don't have to go back to them at the end of each year to say renew, because you're obviously, you're always going to lose a few. So from a retention standpoint, really pushing the sustaining monthly membership is a smart idea from the get-go. So we have a very consistent recruitment strategy. So we have a potential member strategy and a current member strategy. As I was telling Jeff, there's 2 kinds of people in our ecosystem. There's members, and then there's potential members, right? So we're talking to our members by sending them the member report, We're giving them quarterly impact reports of what our journalism has done in the community. And then we're sending them automated renewals 90 days prior to expiration, 60, 30, the day after they expire. All of these things are just sort of happening on autopilot at all times. And then after they expire, they get another email saying, hey, we miss you. We can't do this without you. So that's kind of always happening through a mechanism, a plug-in to Salesforce called Predictive Response. For a small shop like ours, that streamlines so much of our workload because those things are all automated. And all of those reports are pushed from Salesforce to Predictive Response, and it just runs. It doesn't always run perfectly, and sometimes somebody will get the wrong message because you always have to be cleaning up your database, and there's multiple email addresses, so people are getting the wrong thing occasionally. But in terms of streamlining and making sure that everybody knows any marketing strategy only works if it's consistently executed. And so the best way to make sure that it's consistently executed is to automate as much of it as you can, but still make it personal. Our potential members are getting 3 touches per month. We're either promoting a particular member benefit, an event that's coming up, a new product. Sometimes we send testimonials from existing members. So we usually try to use different approaches, one being a more intellectual approach that says, hey, this is why Voice of San Diego needs members, and it's really some smart, tangible reasons from a business perspective. And then the emotional one is more of, I'm a member, they changed my life, they wrote a story, we got a bridge built, now my kids don't have to walk through the river. Because that happens in San Diego. And then the last one, usually each month, we'll say, hey, we're trying to get 80 new members every month. We've got 60. We need 20 more. Help us get over that last hurdle. And so for whatever reason, that goal email usually ends up being the tipping point. So tips. Choose benefits you can easily fulfill. Your benefits have no meaning if you can't really fulfill them. So pick easy ones. Don't underestimate the importance of CRM, and collect and store as much user information as possible. Customize messages based on user information so that you're talking to somebody in a relevant way about things that they care about. Develop an ongoing communication plan and execute. And cultivate a meaningful relationship through access and experience. I mean, we don't believe in swag at all. It's all about access. It's all about experiences. We manage a relationship with our members the same way we manage relationships with our friends. We know many of them by name. We recognize them at an event. We know what's going on with their family and their friends and their jobs, and that's a lot of work, but that's the kind of membership program we have. There is true relationship building going on. So quickly, what's next? The dreaded funnel. We have 1.3 million people that came to the site last year. 15,000 of them are in our pipeline in some way. They subscribe to an email, they've registered to comment, they're following one of our narratives. 2,000 people became members. So obviously there's a lot of low-hanging fruit. So what we're working on with MinPost and with the Knight grant is really experimenting with different features on our site that can help us push more people through the funnel. And so 2 things we're working on right now is really looking at user testing, so watching people as they go through the site and how they navigate around. And if it takes 3 times to read an education article, do you put a little message modal window 3/4 of the way down that says, hey, you've read 3 education articles this month. You're clearly passionate about education. We just happen to be raising money for a new education reporter or to fund a new education podcast. So really talking to them in a very direct way based on their activity on the site. And then really just tracking all of that and gathering metrics. So my hope is that what we find out in this next phase in terms of user behavior, while it can't always be replicated at every site, it might be general enough to be beneficial, in my belief, to all of you. And so we're really committed to sharing as much of that as possible, and that's why we're here today.
Hopefully we'll have time for a few questions when this is done, but right now from Andy Wallmeyer from MinPost.
So I started my career as a wire service reporter. Tide is right. I'm going to try to be as brief as possible, but I'll just say up front, I've spent the last 15 months living almost exclusively in this realm. So I'm going to fly through some things here. If there's anything that at all piques your interest, I'm happy to talk about it in as much or as little detail as you want later. Second of all, everything that Mary said, 100% applies to us as well. We are very similar organizations in our size, obviously in very different parts of the country. But her experience is 100% consistent with ours. Just to give you a sense of our scale, again, we're 1.5 to 2 million in revenue in any given year, depending on foundation grants. We have a bit of a pig in the python, thanks to Knight right now. We have about 15 full-time employees. Our business team, 5 or 6 people, depending on how you define it. We had one membership coordinator level position at the start of this project. That's still what we have right now. Quick question so I can get a read of the room here. Raise your hand if your organization currently has a membership program. Okay, and raise your hand if you're considering launching a membership program right now. Okay, and of those of you that have that, how many of you have fewer than 25 full-time employees? Okay, so this is our presentation is the sweet spot for that, because as someone who's been to these conferences in the past, my greatest frustration is I get these great ideas, I say, yes, that's what we need to do, and then someone from Time or the New York Times or the Guardian or wherever says, and this is what we're doing with our department. And I'm like, oh, an analytics department, that would be sweet. So that's for you. The way that we think about it, obviously, willingness to give down here. I mean, this is only the first half. To Mary's point, making the ask is a major thing all in and of itself. But we're focused on trying to increase what someone's theoretically willing to give. We know, and we see that as being the sum of someone's philanthropic interest, i.e. I support MinnPost because I want to make a better, stronger, healthier Minnesota, and it's just the right thing to do. Second one, personal utility. This is much more like a product. Like, I wake up, I read MinnPost every day. We have very much of a daily operation. And so it's only right that I should pay what I pay for the New York Times or for a cup of coffee or whatever it is. And then this last bucket is tangible benefits. So we've been soliciting membership donations since the very beginning, or I should say individual contributions since the very beginning. Really, those top 2 buckets have been the exclusive focus of that. I believe that those are the most important and will continue to be the most important. We're focusing this effort on the 3rd bucket because that's what's new for us. And we're wondering, are there a significant number of people where when we add that 3rd piece, all of a sudden jump over the hurdle? Or does that 3rd piece make those who are already in our camp willing to give us more money? So, lesson from the first year. And I say we're a little bit behind the Voice of San Diego on this. I joined up about a year and a half ago. We just implemented Salesforce last summer. We're very much on the same path with Voice, but we're just a couple steps behind them on that. I would say my title is publisher, and I came in to think about these big questions, but for the last 12 months, really, it's been more like chief information officer, much to my chagrin. But I got the chance to learn about a whole lot of cool technology things. So the first lesson I would say is it's a lot harder to tie these systems together than you might think. And something that's not even on here, which I was reminded of because this remains my holy grail, is individual level user analytics. I didn't even put this up there because we're so far from that right now. But at the heart of it is your CRM, Salesforce, and all that stuff. I've spent a ton of time on this. We've worked with contractors. We have a technologist, a developer in staff that has capacity to help with this stuff. But it's still a giant pain in the butt. I think the biggest thing I would say is this 3rd point. Data cleansing is a real deal. Like, for anyone who's done any data journalism, you know this to be true. Anyone who's worked with data, it's not a matter of just getting the pipes connected. You got to make sure that everything is right before you can use it. Otherwise, you run the risk of drawing false conclusions. My previous life, I was a management consultant for McKinsey & Company. It was not uncommon for them, when they did a big project, to send someone out to the client site a few weeks in advance just to get the data together, and then for you to spend the first half of the project getting the data in the point where you can actually analyze it, and then you do that part that everybody assumes is the job. This experience of MinnPost has been entirely consistent with that. I would say one point, if I had it all to do over again, I would go back and I would create a 1-year position just around data management. I don't know if it's sustainable for us. Texas Tribune is about 3 times our size. They just hired basically a data manager. I'd love to have one. I don't think we have it in our budget. But if you're grant funded and you're going to get an opportunity to significantly increase your capacity, that would be a wise investment. 2, there is no magic bullet. Growing membership is a long, hard slog. This is like This is the one that keeps me up at night and has me wake up crying in the morning, right? We were very good at like asking just in that general sense for money. We had an intuitive sense for our audience. And so we're seeing, modest year-over-year membership growth. Today, we've done all this stuff. In March, we launched this fantastic member benefit program. It is outstanding. It is really well thought out. I will tell you that. It is exceptionally well thought out and researched. We're doing new things. We're doing some things I think are interesting. And we have more members than we had at December 31st. I hope that's higher yet by the time we get to December 31st of this year. But it's blocking and tackling. You get more people in the door, you keep more of the people you have, and you do it year after year after year after year. Those of you in public broadcasting will know that Minnesota Public Radio is a behemoth. They are fantastic at doing this. They've been doing this for 40 years. They are what we aspire to. They have preconditioned our audience for our messages. It's fantastic, and it's taken them a really, really long time of doing it right to get to where they are. Third, so the focus, we've been focusing on trying to drive those baseline counts, get members to be first-time members. And as we saw in the last slide, we've had a really hard time doing that. That's been the focus of our program. I will say that we've seen some really great ancillary benefits around engagement. Even though it wasn't the stated intent of a lot of these things, member benefits, we basically retroactively gave them to people who are already supporting us. And they've proven enormously popular and given us the opportunity to have some fantastic conversations with our best friends. And so I'm optimistic that one of the benefits and one of the ways this is ultimately going to help us drive membership revenue is going to increase our retention rate, which is currently at 67%, and also increase our annual gift per household. Not only that, these kind of conversations are the things that help us identify prospects for major giving, because we all know that there are people who give us $20 who have the capacity to give us $20,000, but they're not going to do that if we don't know who they are and they don't have a chance to talk to us. So that's a upside benefit there. I think the last point I would make, and this is extremely tactical, but it came up early in our mind, I think one of the best things that we've done in terms of information gathering is we added a little box at the bottom of every donation page, and pretty much any time we go out and we talk to users, but specifically at the bottom of every donation page, and we said, if you feel like it, just tell us, free response, why are you making this gift? What inspired you to make this gift today? And as an organization that we have about 3,800 transactions per year that come through that aren't recurring subsequent instances of recurring donations. There are 3 people on our business staff that read every comment that comes through. And it's been really great and really insightful and sometimes really inspiring for us. And there are some of those that we choose to share with our journalists. There are some, of course, that we don't. But that's given us a really good finger on the pulse of that. And also, it's something that it wasn't really intended as this, but we end up mining those comments. And we use them when we put updates on our fundraising campaigns on our site, which helps drive more donations. And then we use them in other things too. When we go and we talk to advertisers about, say, hey, this is why your arts or cultural organization should advertise on MinnPost. This is what our readers tell us about our arts coverage. Again, unintended consequence, super easy to do. It's not a big data project. It's just really, really valuable stuff. So I'll leave it there. I'm already, oh my goodness, several minutes past. I could talk in more detail about all this stuff later.
Virtually on time. Virtually on time. Liz Berg from WMFU.
You. So my name is Liz Berg. I'm the Assistant General Manager of WFMU. And at WFMU, I wear many hats, one of which is I'm in charge of our fundraising campaigns, for which we have had a great deal of success with. So today I'm going to tell you about Audience Engine, which is WFMU's method for unveiling the secret sauce recipe that we've developed over our many years of online fundraising. Currently, 70% of our annual budget is raised through our online fundraising methods. And so through support from the Dodge Foundation, we're trying to open source this to allow other media publishers to use our methods and our strategy and our technology. But before I talk about Audience Engine, I want to stress this. You can't build a membership program without first having a community. The two go hand in hand. So Audience Engine is a suite of open source software tools that we've developed over our many years online for community building and for crowdfunding. These tools are modular so that they can be integrated into your existing systems, or if you're an organization that doesn't have a CMS or a platform that you're pleased with, we have a larger solution available as well. But this is a unique set of tools for content makers specifically. It's aimed at organizations and companies who have multiple audiences, multiple constituencies, multiple fan bases. So we're combining software with this proven online strategy that WFMU has put in living, working use for many years in Audience Engine. So our first set of tools it's our crowdfunding tool, Mint, and that's going to be launching this fall. And it basically pairs up the concepts of micro goals and embeddable fundraising widgets to allow organizations to deputize not only the members of their team to help fundraise for the larger effort, but also to make the fundraising effort spreadable online, viral, and you can also use a couple examples of these fundraising widgets here to help you get your audience to help with the fundraising campaigns as well. So not only do we have micro goals and embeddable widgets that we're offering with Mint, but we also have a pledge management system built into Mint. So it can help you with gift inventory, fulfillment, tools to help you look up donor history, manage sustainers as well. So it's sort of an all-in-one pledge solution. So as I stated earlier, the micro goals feed into the larger organizational goals. So say you have multiple beats or multiple reporters who are working under you. Each of them can have their own micro goal, and they can get their fan bases behind them to help them reach their micro goals, and then all those micro goals feed into the larger organizational goal. And so that's really powerful because you can mobilize your fan bases and you can mobilize your team members who might not be necessarily motivated to help with the fundraising effort. If you sort of empower them or give them a goal to reach, then they're all of a sudden responsible for helping with the larger effort. Micro goals can be great to divvy up a big capital campaign that might seem insurmountable otherwise, and peer-to-peer campaigns are allowing other groups or organizations to help you meet your goal. You might have co-organizations that are willing to help with your larger fundraising effort. So here are a couple of examples of our fundraising widgets that we've developed for Mint. These we did up for Public Radio Exchange, who are interested in our tools. You can just see the fundraising widgets as they might appear on Twitter or Facebook, and you can see how spreadable these things are. They're embeddable everywhere. Something that's really powerful about Audience Engine and our strategy is that not only are we pairing content with fundraising right on the same page. This is a treatment we did for KEXP, and you can see this is a playlist page for the live program that's happening. They're fundraising. The morning host of this program has his own goal here. It's right on the content page with his playlist for the day. But also, over there on the right, this gets to the next set of Audience Engine tools that we'll be releasing next year, but we're going to be building a set of social engagement tools so that you can take back the second screen. A lot of media organizations are sending their audiences to Facebook, to Twitter, to Reddit threads to discuss the content, and we think that that's just not a great strategy. It's not sustainable. You're not keeping the conversation on your own page and on your own site. And so we're developing a set of tools that allow you to bring that conversation back to where your content lives, to where your fundraising lives, and we're also providing some tools for you to allow your audience, your readers, your listeners, in the case of public radio, you're empowering them to contribute in a way that is not at the bottom of the page, but also we want to be able to give people rewards, these badges. If you can see, they're kind of small next to the usernames, but those are badges, rewards for people who may have donated or contributed useful comments in the past, power users, things like that. So our social tools, which we'll be launching next year, allow you to reclaim the second screen. We'll have tools for user registration and profiles, in addition to commenting and moderation tools. And we're also going to be allowing annotations. So this is a great way to get people more involved, make your audience feel useful and connected to your content, and rewarded for providing good comments. And and we'll also provide, obviously, moderation tools for you to keep out the bad comments and the bad members. But we found at WFMU that when you keep the level of discourse civil and when you actually invest in content moderation, you get so much back from your audience. You get intelligent comments. Your audience is going to be enriching your content. And I already talked about badges for good behavior, but here, this page has an example of an annotation. The author of this article found something in the user comments that he thought was useful or wanted to highlight, so he actually connected that comment to part of the article to highlight how useful that comment was. So it's pretty cool, and I like rewarding good behavior, and I think that's really key. I know that Catherine Minshew, who spoke earlier today from the Muse, really talked about audience contributions and making your audience ambassadors for what it is you do. And this is one way to make them feel involved, important, and connected to what you do. So in closing, I just want to put out some open-ended questions for you as you think about community and fundraising and what it means to get more involved with your audience. So what does community mean online? What about sites that have killed their comments? I know that's a thing now, and it's kind of horrifying to me, and I think it's a huge missed opportunity. But I can see how people are frustrated, and I think there are ways that we can combat the bad comments and bring the level of discourse up to something that's actually great and better than what we've seen in the past. How do you make your community feel connected to what you do? And lastly, what do younger audiences expect? I think we're leaving that question out of the picture a lot, so don't forget about them. So thanks. This is my email address. I invite you to go to audienceengine.net to check out the tools that we're developing, and I invite you to come to our launch event for Mint, which is happening on November 5th at Civic Hall here in New York City. And if you sign up on our email list on the Audience Engine site, we will send you an invite so you can RSVP.
You'll be a member.
Yeah, thank you.
You guys want to talk real quick? So this is tons of great data. Will your stuff be online, your PowerPoints?
Sure.
I
We
presume we're
we
happy to
share
share
that? We'll share that with us. We'll share that back. Any questions from you guys? One thing I heard is Salesforce. You're getting that for free because you're not-for-profit communists?
Right.
They're
Yes.
nice? Yeah, okay,
Yes.
good. What about you porting data to them for Salesforce? Is that going to work?
Yeah.
Gonna work?
Yeah.
Yay.
Building
That was my
integration.
question.
Because the important thing I think is here is this is about getting to see people as individuals. And that's the key. One other quick question. Do you take the Salesforce data you have and feed it back into how you feed content to your readers?
Yes. We've connected Salesforce to our CMS, and then
Beautiful.
we also send data out to MailChimp, which is what we use to send our email newsletter.
Two quick questions. Toby Chaudhary, I'm a VP at PBS. Number one, I loved how Jeff opened up the conversation earlier today about these different kinds of currencies. A lot of this is about membership. I'm curious if there are other kinds of currencies that can be tracked in the technology you've used. And number two, which is probably a more interesting question, is going beyond just the technology. A lot of this probably required a shift in mindset, right, within your organizations. I'm curious how you've been able to align your talents and assets at your respective organizations to actually use this effectively.
Yeah, so I'll answer super briefly. Totally agree. Philosophically, I'm 100% on board with the reverse meter. This is a case of you have to crawl before you can walk, before you can run. Right now, we're crawling, and it's about blocking and tackling, and like understanding and being able to send an email to someone and say, "Hey, Jeff, you gave us, a donation 2 years ago, but not last year. What's up, buddy?" That's where we're at right now. I want to get there. Our system's not there yet. Mindset shift. It wasn't actually that much of a mindset shift for us. We had a very good instinctive sense. For us, it's about achieving scalability. I think we had some some founders who are very deeply connected in the community. And so they brought networks to them, and we were really good at keeping friends, but we need to get better at making friends.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you going to answer?
I don't have anything.
So the other end of that is you talked about the need for individual level metrics. At the risk of sounding hopelessly 1999, because that's when I started this, isn't that registration?
From our perspective, there's a huge difference in the volume of data. I'd like to be able to say, for someone who has registered, that's great. But then, in addition to that, you would have to build a system to track everything that they've ever read, and have that categorized and whatever. And that's the spot that we're not at. Like we know who people
Want to
are,
be at.
but very much want to be at.
Yeah, what articles are they reading? Yeah. Which radio programs are they listening to? How often are they coming back? Have they pledged to?
Where do they live? Are they?
What events are they coming to?
What events are they attending? These types of questions.
This is my human funnel before, right? From mass to marriage, right? And somewhere in between, where the first actionable data point that lets you give someone greater value and get greater value in return, that's before you get to register. The email address is damn near worthless except to beg for money.
Yep.
Quick question for both Mary and then Liz. Mary, you talked about potential members strategy and inviting them to events and stuff. They have to become a member to go to that event, right?
Not all of our events are member exclusive. So there are some that you can come to and pay $10 to get in, and you're there, and you're not a member, but you get to participate. Other events is completely member exclusive, and you have to join in order to be able to come.
So do you tell a potential member, yeah, you can come and it's $50? And
It's $20, and with that you get a year's membership. So we kind of reserve our really big events for something like that we know will have a really big draw. And then we have to work extra hard to make sure that you keep those members, because you don't just want somebody joining to come to one event that they've had a particular affinity for and then never come back again. So we use it cautiously, and we have to really make sure that we forge a solid relationship with those people after that event.
And Liz, your micro goals, does that make that revenue restricted or unrestricted? If you say, I want you to send more money for Great Performances, which is a show I work for, WNET, and then when those dollars come in, I have to give that to Great Performances. I can't give it to the general fund.
Yeah, that's an organizational problem, I think, and I think if this actually might empower you to say, hey, we raised X dollars. Why is our budget being cut to Y? I think this is a great way to say, people are supporting us. You got to listen to them and give us what we need budgetary wise. I think it's a great tool to say, we're loved out there, and you better pay attention to the numbers.
Chaz Offutt from PBS, and building out profiles definitely takes time. Understanding sort of certain engagement tactics also takes time as far as understanding who your members' audience are specifically. I'm wondering if anyone's expedited that process with overlay data or third-party data to better understand likes, dislikes, demographic, psychographic data.
We haven't.
No, we haven't. We're pretty grassroots, and so those tools tend to cost a little more than WFMU is willing to spend. I don't know if you guys have a similar.
Yeah, no, we haven't. I mean, we feel like we're gathering a lot of information right now that we haven't even put to use. So we're just kind of getting to the point where we can now say, oh, they're following education, they've come to this event, and they live in City Heights. Well, we know what to talk to them about now. So we haven't bothered with anything else.
One more back here.
Liz, Steve McNally from Hearst. Liz, you had noted that investing in moderating your comments paid dividends. I was wondering if you have any quantification of that.
It's hard for us to quantify at WFMU. We're mostly a music-based station, but I can give you some just field examples. At our station, if we play a song in a foreign language, oftentimes a user will actually look up the translation and provide it for other users to experience. And so that's one way in which our content is actually being enriched by the audience.
Let us thank these three pioneers very, very, very much. Thank you.